Comenzamos nuestro tercer bloque desde Santa María en la Bodega Presquile, desde California.
So we have different tiers of wine, right? So top tier, middle tier, and then slightly lower tier. I think we adjust our style accordingly. I think you'd be foolish to create, wines that aren't correctly aged for the market. So essentially, our high-end wines here, because of the high acidity, because of the cool weather, we tend to have very low pHs. And low pH wine tends to just be better preserved. This is not due to winemaking. This is just that a liquid with a lower pH it's better at preserving itself from oxidation and spoilage. So due to the fact that is inherent to us, we are able to age wines, I think, quite a bit longer than most people will. In fact, I would argue that they're better when they're aged 5 years plus, both, specifically Pinot Noir, even Syrah, Chardonnay, give or take the vintage, more so in cold vintages, less so in warm vintages. But when we have an ideal year and we produce the wines that we would like to produce, we're able to age them extensively because of the pH. Preservative works better at a lower pH. Sulfur, we don't like to use a lot, so the lower the pH, the less we can use of that to get the same effect in preservative action for the wine. It is definitely a passion of ours here, mine and the Murphy family, to be able to drink our wines old. There's something about that, right? You worked for that. So, of course, we have some kind of design in our higher end wines to be able to achieve that. And then we have on our lower end wines that are more approachable, wines that should be drunk young. Not because that's wrong or not as good as the high end stuff, but stylistically, you can design a wine to almost do that, to be more approachable.
From a food perspective, quarterly, so every 3 months what we'll do is we'll bring a chef in. Sometimes the chef's a Michelin-starred chef or it's a local chef, and we'll do a pop-up dinner. So I'll invite the public, but we'll do something quite intimate. We'll open some of our old vintages of wine, or bring some producers that have inspired us, and we'll do food and wine pairing, and that will come in and sit down and have dinner with an intimate group, which is quite nice. But beyond that, daily as well, we'll do charcuterie boards, we'll do cheese plates, and we'll do some special food, if it's seasonal, because we'll work with some local producers to bring some stuff in for seasons, whatever's coming out of the local ground.
For Presquile, probably about 10,000 cases. I would say recently it's gone up a little bit, but we do produce wine for a few other labels, other brands, which will probably push our total production to about 17,000 cases. But on our wines that you can buy here at the tasting room, 10,000 cases. So mostly Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. I would probably say 40% each of those, maybe a little, give or take. And then some Sauvignon Blanc and Syrah. And we also make sparkling wine. We make Method Champenois sparkling wine, 3 different wines. Blanc de Blanc, Rosé, and a Brut Cuvée. Not big, maybe 100 cases of that. 100 cases of Nebbiolo. So it's very small production stuff, I think, in reality, in the bigger picture.
I think what makes Presquile, just the wine itself, special, it's very similar to actually a lot of the wineries that are around us, is the freshness of the wine, it's the high acidity, it's the elegance. In the Chardonnay, there's a little bit of salinity to it. In the Pinot Noir, there's a spicy characteristic to it. That's what kind of makes it different than a lot of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from California, just because we have this very specific growing area that brings these things to the wine. So if I was going to say, okay, what makes Presquile different from all of our friendly wineries around here is probably our quest for acidity and brightness in our wines and freshness. Especially if you taste our Chardonnay, it's a little bit of the alcohol, we have a little bit of higher acid to it. So it's just that little extra.
If you've ever done business in California, that is a valid question. I think up and down this coast, any development, anything somebody wants to do typically comes under a magnifying glass in a critical way, not necessarily in a nice way, for lack of better words. We were extremely fortunate here to be very, very well supported by the community. I think in general, if you look at our location, where we are, this area it didn't need something like this, but it could always, you know, have something else to do, or something that comes in to support the community, you know, to give people something to do, to have something to be proud of, to produce some quality wines from a rather unknown area and try to put it on the map. I mean, we always like to say that it was always on the map, the dot. We're just trying to make the dot bigger, you know. It was already a respectable wine growing area. We're just trying to improve that. So I think the community gets that. They notice that. We've been very respectful of the area and the environment, which is typically the main issue. Biologists is our biggest issue in terms of the development. They've been totally supportive of us because the family has been so respectful of the environment here and all the threatened species, tiger salamander, red-legged frog, monkey grass, the list goes on. They've been very respectful of that. And I think that all relays back to the community, that they understand we're not here to try and take over, we're here to give them something. We do this publicly because we want to, you know, share it. And I think that mentality has really benefited us here, so much so that, I mean, this is where people come to have events, this is where our local hospital has their events. People just really enjoy what the Murphy family has done, and of course doing business with the Murphy family seems to go over really well.
Y hasta aquí llegamos con nuestro programa. Yo te invito a seguir conociendo más terruños de nuestro país y también del mundo en una próxima emisión de Aromas del Terruño.